The room held 27 people. I counted them as I walked in, old training kicking in. Assess the environment, identify exits, note who's positioned where. My mother stood near the fireplace, hands clasped like she was about to deliver a sermon. My sister Tori sat at the head of the dining table, my father's old seat, wearing a cream blazer and that smile, the one that said she'd already won. Folding chairs lined the walls, aunts, uncles, cousins, neighbors, an audience, not a family. On the table, a navy blue folder with gold lettering, estate transfer documents, $12,400,000. I should have turned around, should have walked out, but Grandma Evelyn's voice echoed in my head. When they corner you with witnesses, they're expecting surrender. Give them documentation instead. So I stayed. Biggest mistake of my life, or maybe the best decision I ever made. The September afternoon light cut through the windows at angles that made everyone look sharper than they were. My cousin Ashley sat in the corner, phone angled just right. Instagram Live, probably. The little red recording dot visible if you knew where to look. Tori stood, smoothing her blazer. Theory brand, cream-colored, the kind that costs more than a junior officer's monthly rent. Her hair fell in perfect waves over her shoulders, professionally blown out that morning. Pearl studs caught the light, the costume of competence she couldn't actually afford. I wore jeans. Navy blue, Levi's, broken in at the knees. White cotton shirt, sleeves rolled to my elbows. Hair pulled back in a low ponytail. Boots with tread still good after 2 years. Deliberately unremarkable. Strategically forgettable. Mom's voice cut through the murmurs. Rebecca, thank you for coming. We know you're busy with your career. This won't take long. The pause before career landed like she meant to say obsession or escape. Tori's hands rested on the folder, fingers spread like she was blessing it. After Dad passed 2 years ago, I've been managing Grandma Evelyn's estate. It's been overwhelming. 12.4 million in properties, investments, trusts. I've done my best, but I need clarity. We all do. She slid the folder toward me. It stopped 6 inches from my hands. This transfers management to me officially. You'll still be a beneficiary, of course, but I'm here. I understand the family dynamics, and honestly, Becca, you've never cared about this stuff anyway. The lies were so smooth, they almost sounded like truth. No. Not loud, not dramatic, just no. The room went silent. Someone's phone dropped, screen cracking against hardwood. Mom's voice, sharp as broken glass. Excuse me? I'm not signing. Tori's smile flickered like a bulb about to blow. Becca, don't be difficult. This is about family. Then why are there 27 witnesses? Mom moved fast, crossed the room in 4 steps. Her hand connected with my face before I could process movement. The sound cracked through the space like a tree branch snapping. You don't have a choice. The words came out in a scream that made Aunt Linda flinch. Do you hear me? We've tolerated your absence, your superiority, your complete disregard for this family, but not today. Today you sign. I tasted copper, cheek burning, but I didn't move my hand to touch it, didn't step back, counted to 5 in my head. Military training, controlled response under stress. I looked past her to Mr. Whitmore, the family attorney. 62. Gray suit that cost more than his hourly rate should allow. Expensive watch-catching light. Do you know who legally controls my grandmother's estate? His face went white. I was 8 years old when I learned I was invisible. Not literally. I could see myself in mirrors. Teachers called my name in class. But to my parents, I existed in soft focus, background, peripheral vision. Peripheral. The math competition was held on a Saturday in May, 1989. Multnomah County Math Olympiad at the Portland Convention Center. 156 students from across Oregon. I'd advanced through 3 preliminary rounds. This was finals. Mom and Dad promised they'd be there, front row. They weren't. I stood on that stage holding the first place ribbon, blue silk, gold lettering, state champion, elementary division, scanning the audience for familiar faces. The auditorium smelled like floor wax and the kind of anticipation that makes your stomach tight. Parents everywhere, cameras flashing, voices calling out congratulations to children who weren't me. Tori was auditioning for Portland Ballet Company that day. Across town, same time slot. Mom and Dad chose. I took the bus home, number 15, transferred at Morrison Street, walked 6 blocks from the stop. Let myself in with the key hidden under the planter by the front door, the one with the fake geraniums that never died because they were plastic. They were already there when I walked in. Celebrating, living room filled with the kind of energy that follows disappointment trying to disguise itself as optimism. Cheese and crackers on the good plates, sparkling cider in wine glasses. Tori hadn't even made callbacks. "How is your thing, honey?" Mom asked, distracted, arranging crackers in a circle that would photograph well. I held up the ribbon. "Oh, that's wonderful." She kissed my forehead, lips barely making contact, already turning back to Tori. "Don't worry, sweetheart, there's always next year. Your pirouettes were perfect. That judge just didn't understand artistry." The ribbon went in my drawer. Tori's rejection letter got framed with a note. "Sometimes the world isn't ready for excellence. We're proud of you anyway." That was the lesson. Achievement without witness doesn't count. 5 years later, Tori got early admission to Princeton, full scholarship. My parents threw a party at the Multnomah Athletic Club. 80 people, catered dinner, champagne tower that cost more than our monthly mortgage. Dad's speech that night, "My daughter, the Princeton woman." I always knew she'd do something extraordinary. 1 month after that, I got early admission to MIT, also full ride. Mom's reaction: "That's lovely, honey. We'll celebrate after Tori's graduation party. We can't have 2 big events so close together. People will think we're showing off." We never did celebrate. My acceptance letter went in the same drawer as the blue ribbon. Tori's Princeton letter got framed, hung in the living room beside her baby pictures and the photo of her in her first ballet recital costume. Pattern recognition. In the Navy, they'd later teach me that skill had a name, a value, a purpose. But at 13, standing in that living room while everyone toasted my sister's future, I just learned to make myself smaller, quieter, less of an inconvenience to the narrative they'd already written. Tori changed majors 3 times at Princeton. Started with economics, switched to art history sophomore year, communications junior year, graduated with general studies and a minor in something she never actually used. Each change, she's discovering her path, she's finding herself. This is what exploration looks like. Cost to my parents in extended tuition and delayed graduation. $60,000 they paid without complaint. After Princeton, Tori moved home. 22 years old, degree in hand, no job prospects because general studies and finding yourself don't translate to marketable skills. She stayed 2 years, 1999 to 2001. Her old bedroom, rent-free, parents covering car insurance, cell phone, the credit card they'd given her for emergencies that somehow always had a balance. "She needs space to figure out who she is," Dad said. "We don't want to rush her into the wrong career." I was at MIT during those years, triple majoring, because if I was going to be there, I was going to make it count. Worked 3 jobs to cover living expenses beyond the scholarship. Tutoring underclassmen in statistics, weekend shifts at the campus bookstore, overnight security detail at the engineering library. Spring of my junior year, I asked my parents for a $2,000 loan. Summer research program in California. Opportunity to work with a professor whose work on pattern recognition in financial systems had been published in 6 journals. Mom's response, voice careful: "Rebecca, you've always been so independent. We don't want to interfere with that. You're so capable on your own." Translation: Tori needs the money more. You'll be fine without it. I worked construction that summer instead. Poured concrete for a crew in Somerville. Came back to school in the fall with calluses that took months to fade, and the understanding that independence wasn't a compliment. It was an excuse. Graduation day, May 2003. MIT. My parents came because Tori wanted to see Boston. After the ceremony, standing in front of Killian Court with my diploma that nobody had asked to hold or photograph, Dad turned to Tori. "See, this is what hard work looks like." To me, good job. So what's next? Job applications? I'm joining the Navy. Silence. The kind that feels like air pressure dropping before a storm. The military? Mom's voice carried that particular pitch that meant she was appalled but trying to hide it. "Rebecca, that's so drastic." Tori hugged me, theater of sisterly affection for the relatives standing nearby with their cameras. "I could never do something like that. You're so brave." Translation: "You're so strange." Dad shook my hand. Firm grip, 2 pumps. Release. Like a colleague. Like someone he respected professionally but didn't know personally. Good benefits package. Stable career. Smart move. No pride. No concern. No questions about what I'd actually be doing, or where I'd be stationed, or whether he'd worried about his daughter in a war zone. Just practicality. People ask if it was patriotism, a calling, some G.I. Jane fantasy about serving my country. It wasn't. It was the only place I could think of where invisibility was a skill, not a flaw, where silence meant observation, not dismissal, where documentation mattered more than performance, where being quiet didn't make me forgettable. It made me valuable. I didn't join to serve my country. I joined to escape my family. Basic training at Naval Station Great Lakes, Illinois. Summer heat that felt like breathing through wet cotton. Drill instructors yelling 6 inches from your face about how you'd never make it, how you were weak, how you'd break before week 3. The yelling didn't bother me. I'd grown up with a different kind of loud, the silence when you walked into a room and conversations stopped, the absence when you spoke and nobody responded, the quiet that meant you weren't worth acknowledging. Physical training was hard. Push-ups until your arms shook, running until your lungs burned and your legs forgot how to work properly. Obstacle courses that left you covered in mud and rope burns, and the kind of exhaustion that made you question every choice that led you there. But it was quantifiable. Run this distance in this time. Do these push-ups, pass this test, meet this standard. For the first time in my life, I knew exactly what was expected. And when I met those expectations, someone noticed. 8 weeks in, our company took a written exam on financial analysis, part of the intelligence track screening process, budget review, expense tracking, identifying discrepancies in procurement records. I scored highest in the class. The instructor, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen, called me into her office afterward. 38 years old, Asian American, 15-year veteran with a reputation for being brilliant and impossible to impress. Morrison. She tapped the test paper on her desk. You caught a $400,000 discrepancy in a budget report that 3 senior analysts missed. How? The vendor charges didn't match the delivery schedules, ma'am. Same contractor billed twice for the same quarter, different invoice numbers. The amounts were slightly different, but the line items were identical. Nobody orders 600 units of the exact same equipment, 60 days apart, unless they're trying to hide something. Sarah studied me with the kind of attention that made you want to stand straighter. You've done this before. No, ma'am, I pay attention to patterns. Good. The Navy needs people who notice what others overlook. That was the first time anyone had called my attention to detail a talent instead of nitpicking. First assignment, Naval Base San Diego, Financial Crimes Investigation Unit, 2003. The kind of work nobody talks about at family dinners because it sounds boring until you explain that you're hunting people who steal millions while wearing uniforms that say they're serving their country. Most of the job was spreadsheets, thousands of rows of data, vendor contracts, supply chain records, maintenance logs, fuel consumption reports. Numbers that told stories if you knew how to listen. 2009, I found something that shouldn't have existed. One invoice, $18,000 for technical consulting services. No details, no hours logged, no deliverables specified, just a company name and a dollar amount that cleared without question. I pulled every invoice from that vendor for 18 months. Notice they were all structured the same way. Amounts just under $25,000. The threshold requiring additional approval signatures. Then I cross-referenced with other contractors, found 6 more doing the exact same thing, reported it to my commanding officer. He told me I was being paranoid, seeing patterns where there was just coincidence and bureaucratic inefficiency. So I documented everything, built a spreadsheet that ran 47 pages when printed. Every invoice, every vendor, every suspicious pattern. Undeniable. They arrested 3 people, 2 contractors, 1 supply officer. Recovered $1.8 million. I got promoted to lieutenant. Sarah Chen pulled me aside after the ceremony. You have a gift, Morrison. You see what other people dismiss as noise. That's rare. It's just numbers, ma'am. No. She shook her head. It's pattern recognition. And in intelligence work, that's everything. She paused, choosing words carefully. Can I ask you something personal? Yes, ma'am. Who taught you not to trust the obvious answer? I hesitated. Not sure how to explain a childhood of learning that what people said and what they meant lived in different zip codes. My family, I guess. They taught me that words and truth aren't always the same thing. Sarah nodded slowly. That's a hard way to learn, but it makes you good at this work. Just don't let it make you hard, okay? There's a difference between being observant and being unable to trust anyone. By 2014, I was stationed at Naval Base Kitsap in Bremerton, Washington, 2 hours from Seattle, close enough to visit Grandma Evelyn on weekends. She was 67 that year, living alone in a small Victorian in Seattle's Queen Anne neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, creaky floors, a kitchen that overlooked an alley instead of the bay view the real estate agent had promised 40 years earlier. The house smelled like lemon oil and coffee that had been sitting too long, and the particular quiet that comes from living alone by choice. Grandma Evelyn had been a forensic accountant for an oil and gas company, 35 years tracking money through corporate structures designed specifically to make tracking impossible. Retired in 2010 with a pension, and the kind of professional respect that meant former colleagues still called her for advice. Fall 2015, she called me, voice careful. Rebecca, I need your eyes on something, not your opinion. Your eyes. Her kitchen table was covered in papers when I arrived. Rental statements from 3 properties in Portland, investment portfolio summaries from Vanguard, property tax documents for a commercial building in Beaverton, bank records going back 3 years. Your sister says these numbers don't make sense. She slid the nearest stack toward me. What do you see? I started reading. 5 minutes in, I found the first problem. This roof repair happened 3 times in 6 months. Same contractor, all payments just under $10,000. The approval threshold, she said quietly. Anything over that, I have to sign personally. These signatures are forged. I tapped the line. Look at the E in Evelyn. The loop is too wide, and the descender doesn't match your normal handwriting. And this date? You were in Arizona that week. I remember because you sent me a postcard of the Grand Canyon with a note about how it reminded you that problems look smaller from a distance. Grandma Evelyn folded her hands on the table, the way she did when she'd already reached a conclusion but wanted confirmation first. I've suspected for a year, but I needed to know I wasn't being paranoid. You're not. The evidence was clear, brutal, inescapable. Tori's stealing from you. The word hung in the air like smoke that wouldn't dissipate. I thought so. No tears, no shock, just tired certainty. The kind that comes from watching something happen slowly enough that you could catalog every step, but too slowly to pinpoint when prevention became impossible. Why didn't you confront her? Grandma poured more coffee, hands steady despite being 77 years old, and holding proof that her granddaughter was a thief. Because love doesn't stop theft. It just makes people better at justifying it. She slid a different folder toward me. Heavier paper, legal weight, documents with the kind of formatting that meant attorneys had been involved. I'm making you successor trustee, not Tori. You. Grandma, that's gonna cause war. She finished the sentence without hesitation. I know, but I'd rather you fight them now, with legal protection, than watch Tori drain everything and end up in prison 5 years from now when she's stolen so much that prosecution becomes inevitable. The wisdom landed like a textbook falling closed, final, certain. Some granddaughters are loved, Rebecca. Some are trusted. You've always been the latter. That's not a consolation prize, that's a responsibility. November 2016. The documents were executed at a law office in downtown Seattle. Not Mr. Whitmore, the family attorney. An independent firm Grandma had researched specifically because they had no prior relationship with anyone named Morrison. Revocable living trust. Assets totaling $12.4 million. 3 rental properties in Portland. 1 commercial building in Beaverton. Investment portfolios scattered across Vanguard, Fidelity, and Charles Schwab. Successor trustee and fiduciary authority, Rebecca Ann Morrison. 2 witnesses, both attorneys from different firms. Notarized, recorded with Multnomah County. Filed in triplicate. Undeniable. Grandma's final instruction, delivered in the parking lot outside the attorney's office while rain streaked the windshield. Keep copies, keep quiet. When they come for this, and they will, let the documents speak. Not your emotions. Never your emotions. March 2020. COVID-19 just beginning to reshape the world into something unrecognizable. Social distancing guidelines, masks, capacity limits on gatherings. Grace Memorial Chapel, Portland. March 14th. 40 people scattered across pews that could hold 200. Grandma Evelyn's funeral. She died at 71, sharp until the end. Pneumonia taking her in less than a week. The pastor read Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." Words that had been spoken over coffins for thousands of years, worn smooth by repetition until they meant everything and nothing. Tori delivered the eulogy. Black Armani dress that probably cost $800. Pearls at her throat. Hair perfect. Voice breaking in exactly the right places. Grandma Evelyn taught me about responsibility, about stewardship, about caring for family. She trusted me to manage her properties, and I hope, her voice caught, recovered, I hope I made her proud. I sat in the back row, service dress blues, medals earned in places I couldn't talk about, doing work that sounded boring until you understood what finding patterns in financial data actually meant for national security. Watching, counting. Tori used the word me 14 times in a 3-minute speech. Us, 0. At the reception, Mom kept glancing at me nervously. Mr. Whitmore, the family attorney, whispered to Tori near the coffee station. She nodded, touched his arm, smiled like they were discussing something pleasant instead of what they were actually discussing. The morning after the funeral, 7:45 a.m., my phone rang. Mom, Becca, we need to talk about the estate. Not about Evelyn. About the assets. I'll review everything with my own attorney first. That's not necessary. Tori's been managing. I'll review them first, Mom. Sharp pause. The kind that meant I'd violated an unspoken protocol. You're being very difficult about this. I'm being thorough. There's a difference. The pressure built slowly. Text messages from Tori that started friendly and grew progressively more insistent. March 20th. Hey sis, can we talk about Grandma's properties? I've been managing them for 5 years. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. April 5th. Dad's health isn't great. High blood pressure, post-COVID stress. Would be easier if management was clear. Thoughts? May 12th. Not trying to pressure, just trying to plan. Can we Zoom this week? I archived every message, responded minimally. I'll get back to you. August 2020. An email from Dad. Robert Morrison, 71 years old, retired engineer, man who believed organization equaled control. Subject, asset simplification proposal. Rebecca, attached, is a proposal from Mr. Whitmore to streamline estate management. Tori lives in Portland, knows the properties, understands the tenants and maintenance requirements. You're often deployed or stationed elsewhere. Logic dictates the person present should manage. Please review and sign. November. A voicemail from Mom. Crying. Your sister is drowning, Becca. 3 properties, the commercial building, investment oversight. It's crushing her. If you can't help manage, at least don't obstruct. Please, for family. May 2022. Dad died. Heart attack. Sudden. The kind that happens between breakfast and the morning news. No warning, no chance to say things left unsaid. I flew home from an assignment outside the continental United States. Took 3 connecting flights and 26 hours of travel to make it back in time for the funeral. At the reception, Mom pulled me aside. Kitchen of their house, away from relatives making small talk in the living room. Your father's last wish was for you two to work together. Don't let stubbornness destroy that. I noticed things at that funeral. Details. Dad's estate was smaller than it should have been. Money missing from accounts that should have been stable. But asking questions at a funeral feels like accusing the dead of poor planning. So I filed it away. Another data point. Another pattern beginning to emerge. January 2023. Family group chat. Mom, Tori, me. Mom, can we please resolve this estate situation? It's been 3 years. Tori, I'm not asking for charity, just recognition of reality. I've been doing the work. June 2023. Tori again. Therapy has helped me understand family dynamics better. Would you consider mediation, Becca? I didn't respond. The therapy comment was particularly rich, coming from someone who'd spent 5 years stealing and thought talking about feelings would erase documentation. January 2024. Mom, you've been ignoring us for a year. This is cruel. Tori, Derek and I are talking about starting a family. I need to know what resources we can count on. February 2024, I finally responded. 1 message. Clear. Final. I have reviewed all documents. I will continue managing per Grandma Evelyn's trust structure. This is not negotiable. August 2024. I requested quarterly reports from Mr. Whitmore, standard procedure, routine oversight. The numbers didn't add up. $340,000 missing from trust accounts. Period covering 2016 to 2020. 47 checks with forged signatures, vendor kickbacks, contractors giving Tori 15 to 20% of payment amounts under the table, administrative fees totaling $85,000 paid to my sister for work she had no authority to perform. I hired a forensic accountant, quietly. Someone with no connection to Portland, no relationship with anyone in the family. Former FBI financial crimes specialist who'd built a second career finding money people thought they'd hidden well enough. September 1st, the email arrived. Subject, family meeting. September 22nd, important. From Margaret Morrison. Dear Rebecca, we're hosting a family gathering to finalize your grandmother's estate distribution. This has been delayed 4 years due to your resistance. We need closure. Sunday, September 22nd, 2 p.m. Our home. Please prioritize this. The entire family will be present. I called Sarah Chen, retired now, living in Tacoma with her wife in a garden she claimed was therapeutic, but that I suspected was just another form of intelligence work. Watching things grow, identifying patterns in nature instead of spreadsheets. They're ambushing me. How many people? Mom said entire family, so probably 25 to 30. Sarah's voice carried the weight of someone who'd seen this play before. And you're going? I have to. If I don't, they'll say I refuse to communicate, that I stonewalled, that I'm the difficult one. Becca, are you prepared for what they're going to do? I have documents. I mean, emotionally. Are you prepared for them to hurt you? I sat with that question in the silence of my apartment. Rain against the windows. Portland in September, gray and constant. They've been hurting me for 43 years, Sarah. I'm just finally ready to document it. Sunday, September 22nd, 2 p.m. I pulled into my parents' driveway and counted 11 cars. Through the living room window, I could see people standing, sitting, clustering in groups that spoke to careful arrangement rather than casual gathering. I sat in my car for 30 seconds, breathing, counting, checking. The charcoal fireproof folder sat on the passenger seat. Metal clasp, waterproof, designed to survive house fires. Grandma Evelyn had given it to me in 2016 with specific instructions. Keep the originals here. Everything else is copies. If they ever come for you, this folder survives. I grabbed it, got out, walked to the door. The living room had been rearranged, furniture pushed to the walls, folding chairs set up in rows facing the dining table. 27 people in total. I counted faces, named them silently. Aunt Linda and Uncle George, cousins Emily and Marcus with their spouses. The Chens from next door who weren't actually family, but had attended every major Morrison event for 30 years. Pastor Wright from the Baptist church Mom still attended every Sunday. And in the corner, phone angled carefully, Cousin Ashley, 24, Instagram influencer with 6,000 followers who turned this into content before the meeting ended. Tori sat at the head of the table, Dad's old position, the spot he'd occupied for 40 years of family dinners, holiday meals, moments that mattered. She wore cream, blazer, blouse, the performance of someone in control. Mr. Whitmore sat to her right, family attorney, 62 years old, gray suit that cost $3,000, Rolex that caught light every time he moved his wrist. Mom stood by the fireplace, lavender cardigan, hands clasped, face arranged in an expression I'd seen 1,000 times, the look that said she was doing something difficult but necessary for everyone's good. The air smelled like coffee and the potpourri Mom put out when she wanted the house to seem welcoming. Cinnamon and something floral that didn't exist in nature. Rebecca, thank you for coming. Mom's voice carried across the room, designed to be heard by everyone. We know you're busy with your career. This won't take long. The pause before career felt deliberate, calculated, meant to diminish. Tori stood, smoothed her blazer, smiled. After Dad passed 2 years ago, I've been managing Grandma Evelyn's estate. It's been overwhelming. $12.4 million in properties, investments, trusts. I've done my best, but I need clarity. We all do. She slid the navy blue folder across the table. It stopped exactly 6 inches from where I stood. Precise, rehearsed. This transfers management to me officially. You'll still be a beneficiary, of course. But I'm here. I understand the family dynamics. And honestly, Becca, you've never cared about this stuff anyway. The lies were so practiced, they sounded like truth. Like facts everyone had agreed to years ago. No. One word, quiet, final. The room stilled. Someone's phone hit the floor, screen cracking. Mom's voice sharp. Excuse me? I'm not signing. Tori's smile flickered. Becca, don't be difficult. This is about family. Then why are there 27 witnesses? Mom moved 4 steps. Her hand connected with my face before I processed the movement. The crack echoed, sound waves bouncing off vaulted ceilings, hardwood floors. The shocked silence of people who just watched something cross a line nobody had expected. You don't have a choice! The words came out in a scream that made Aunt Linda jerk back in her chair. Do you hear me? We've tolerated your absence, your superiority, your complete disregard for this family. But not today. Today you sign. My cheek burned, copper taste in my mouth where I'd bitten the inside of my lip. But I didn't raise my hand to touch my face. Didn't step back, counted to 5, breathing, controlled. I looked past Mom to Mr. Whitmore. Do you know who legally controls my grandmother's estate? His face drained of color. I reached into my bag, pulled out the charcoal folder, set it on the table. The metal clasp opened with a sound that carried click. Tori leaned back. Oh my God, what is this? Are you seriously? I opened the folder, slid the first document onto the table. Mr. Whitmore leaned forward, reading. His expression changed, shifted, collapsed. This is a recorded trust instrument. Mom's voice trying for control. We know about the trust. Evelyn left it to both girls. Mr. Whitmore interrupted. No, this is different. I slid the second document forward. Successor trustee designation. Third document, fiduciary authority transfer. Fourth, Multnomah County recording. Document number 2016-087453. The dates were clear. November 3rd, 2016. 8 years ago. 2 witnesses, both independent attorneys, notarized, recorded, filed in triplicate with the county clerk. Sole trustee, Rebecca Ann Morrison. Mr. Whitmore read aloud, voice shaking. Hereby designates Rebecca Ann Morrison as successor trustee, with full fiduciary authority over all assets, properties, and accounts associated with the Morrison Family Trust, effective immediately upon the death of Evelyn Marie Morrison. Silence. Then chaos. Uncle George, that can't be right. Aunt Linda, Evelyn wouldn't do that. She loved both girls equally. Cousin Emily, this feels wrong. Tori stood, pointing. This is fake. She forged this. She manipulated Grandma when she was old and… Mr. Whitmore, louder than I'd ever heard him. Mrs. Hartwell, please sit down. Number. Tori's voice broke. She's lying. She used her military training to manipulate an elderly woman. Ms. Hartwell. Mr. Whitmore's voice carried weight now. I reviewed this exact document in 2019. It's legitimate. The silence that followed was different, heavier. The kind that comes when reality shifts and nobody's quite ready to accept the new landscape. I slid one more document onto the table. Forensic Audit Summary. Morrison Family Trust. Financial Analysis. 2016 to 2020. I also have documentation of $340,000 in unauthorized withdrawals, 47 forged signatures, vendor kickback schemes, administrative fees paid to someone without fiduciary authority. Mom's face went pale. Rebecca, what are you… I'm saying Tori has been stealing for 4 years, and Mr. Whitmore knew. The attorney stood. I object to that characterization. You approve payments over $80,000 to my sister without trustee authorization. You countersign checks. You billed administrative fees to the trust that I never approved. That's not legal representation, Mr. Whitmore. That's complicity. Mom's voice, desperate. Stop this! You're making accusations you can't prove! I turned to face the room. Everyone here thinks I'm refusing to share. I'm not. I'm refusing to enable fraud. Tori's voice broke, cracked, collapsed. It wasn't supposed to be this much. It started small. One check, $8,000, for the roof that didn't really need fixing. I was going to pay it back. Derek, her husband, sitting in the back row. Tori, stop talking. But then it was easier the second time. And the third. And Grandma never checked, never asked. She trusted me. Tori's words tumbled out faster now, control slipping. I needed it, Derek. The house, your startup costs, the wedding, the lifestyle we… Derek stood. What startup costs? You told me that came from your bonus. I couldn't tell you. I would have told you to stop stealing. Mr. Whitmore tried to intervene. Even if the trust is valid, and I'm not conceding that, there are questions about whether Mrs. Morrison had capacity in 2016 to execute such complex… I slid forward another document. Medical records release. Evelyn Morrison, November 2016. Full cognitive assessment. No dementia. No impairment. She was 67, sharp as ever, still working as a consultant. 2 independent doctors certified her competency. Then the final piece. Heavy cream paper. Grandma Evelyn's handwriting. Ink slightly faded, but words perfectly clear. Letter dated November 2016, addressed to Margaret and Robert Morrison. I read it aloud. Dear Margaret and Robert, if you're reading this, it means Rebecca has had to defend her authority. I'm sorry it came to this. I gave her sole control because I watched Victoria steal small amounts for 3 years. $8,000 here, $12,000 there. I documented everything. I didn't give Victoria access because I don't trust her with money. I gave Rebecca control because I trust her with truth. Some granddaughters are loved, some are trusted. Rebecca is both. But only she is strong enough to protect what I built. If you're angry at this choice, ask yourself, why didn't you notice what Victoria was doing? The answer is simple. You weren't looking. You never looked at Rebecca closely enough to see her strength. And you never looked at Victoria closely enough to see her weakness. That's on you, not them. Evelyn. Mom sank into the nearest chair, face in her hands. Not crying, just broken. She knew. She knew we failed you both. I picked up my folder, closed it. The metal clasp. Click. Looked around the room at faces I'd known my whole life. Faces that had watched me be invisible, be dismissed, be erased. This meeting is over. My voice steady, clear. And so is the assumption that I will always yield. I walked out. Door closing behind me with a sound like a period at the end of a sentence that couldn't be revised. My phone rang before I reached my car. Sarah Chen. Becca, I got a weird call. Someone claiming to be Tori's attorney, asking about your service record, your deployments, looking for dirt. This isn't over. I looked back at the house, saw Tori through the window crying into Derek's shoulder, saw Mom standing alone by the fireplace, saw Mr. Whitmore packing his briefcase with hands that shook. Number 1. I got in my car. Started the engine. It's just beginning. Monday morning arrived with rain that felt personal, the kind that came sideways, needle sharp, turning Portland streets into mirrors reflecting gray sky. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mom's hand coming at my face, heard the crack, felt the room full of witnesses who'd sat there and watched it happen and done nothing. My phone showed 47 missed calls by sunrise. The family group chat had exploded past 200 messages. I opened it once, read 3, then muted it permanently. Uncle James, you humiliated your parents in front of everyone. Shameful. Aunt Linda, Evelyn would be disgusted by this greed. Cousin Michelle, I hope you're happy. Mom hasn't stopped crying. One text stood out. Derek, sent at 2:47 a.m. We need to talk, not about taking sides, about my daughter's future. Can we meet? Alone? Daughter, not child, not baby. Daughter. Tori was already pregnant. 10 o'clock. I sat across from Mark Stevenson in his office on the 15th floor of U.S. Bancorp Tower, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. On clear days, you could see Mount Hood. Today, just rain and fog erasing the city. Mark was 53, a state law specialist, 15 years building a reputation for being thorough to the point of obsessive. Exactly what I needed. What? Patterson's filing is aggressive. He spread documents across the conference table. He's claiming Evelyn was under undue influence when she executed the 2016 trust, that you manipulated an elderly woman. I was stationed in Bahrain in 2016. I saw Grandma twice that year, both times on leave. Maybe 3 weeks total. I know, we'll prove that. Mark tapped a yellow legal pad covered in his precise handwriting. But here's what worries me. Patterson is arguing that even if the trust is valid, your grandmother lacked capacity to understand complex financial structures. He's requesting a court-appointed independent administrator. My stomach dropped. They're trying to take it away completely. They're trying to create enough doubt to force a settlement, make you so tired, so broke from legal fees, that you'll compromise. Give Tori partial control just to make it stop. He pulled up a digital timeline on his laptop screen, rotating it so I could see. November 2016. Trust executed. Evelyn, age 67, sharp as ever, still working as consultant for 3 different firms. Medical records show clean bill of health, no cognitive issues whatsoever. Witnesses were two attorneys from different firms. Zero conflict of interest. Independent counsel hired specifically to advise her. Seattle attorney named Patricia Gomez, no connection to your family. The evidence is solid. Mark's expression darkened. Legally, yes. But Patterson knows something we don't. He wouldn't file this unless he has leverage. My phone rang. Unknown number. Rebecca Morrison? Speaking. This is Amanda Chen from the Oregonian. I'm writing a story about your family's trust dispute. Your sister provided documents showing you haven't spoken to your parents in 4 years, that you refused to visit your grandmother when she was dying, and that you're using a technicality to steal. I hung up. Mark looked up. What? They're going public. Tori's spinning this as the evil absent daughter stealing from the devoted family. Tuesday morning, 6 a.m., the article dropped online. The Oregonian, front page of the Metro section. Family war, over $12 million. Fortune, military daughter, accused of elder manipulation. A Portland family is torn apart over a $12.4 million trust, with one daughter claiming she was given authority by her grandmother, while the rest of the family says the elderly woman was manipulated during her final years. The article included Tori's interview, photo of her looking devastated, hand on her barely visible belly. My sister was never close to Grandma. Now she's using legal tricks to cut out the family that actually cared. Mom's quote, "I don't recognize the person my daughter has become. Pastor Wright, their family pastor who'd known us since childhood. Sometimes legal rights and moral rights aren't the same thing." No comment from me, because they'd never actually contacted me for comment beyond that one phone call I'd ended. The story went viral by noon. Cousin Ashley's Instagram live from the meeting had been viewed 2.4 million times. Reddit threads spawned across multiple subreddits. /Am I the Asshole featured a post that hit 40,000 upvotes. AITA for refusing to share inheritance with sister who actually took care of grandmother. The comments split predictably. The quiet ones are always the most manipulative. She's in the military. She knows psychological warfare tactics. Feels so bad for the parents who worked their whole lives. But also, wait, the sister withdrew $340,000? Why is nobody talking about that? I want to see those forged signatures. Something doesn't add up here. Wednesday evening, 7 p.m., I drove back to my parents' house because Derek had asked, and because ignoring him felt like the wrong strategic move. Email from Dad had arrived at noon. Subject line, emergency family meeting, tonight. Rebecca, if you have any decency left, you'll come. Your sister has something important to announce. This is bigger than money. The house felt smaller this time. Only 8 people. Living room rearranged back to normal, folding chairs gone. Just family now. The inner circle. Mom and Dad, Tori and Derek, Aunt Linda, Uncle George, Mr. Whitmore with his expensive briefcase, me. Tori sat on the couch, one hand resting on her stomach, barely showing. Maybe 12 weeks, maybe 14. Derek beside her, but 3 inches of space between them. Body language screaming discomfort. Mom hovered near the kitchen doorway. Dad stood by the fireplace, arms crossed. Everyone positioned like chess pieces. I didn't want to do this publicly. Tori's voice came out soft, trembling, calculated. But Becca, you've left me no choice. She placed both hands on her belly now, framing it. I'm 14 weeks pregnant, we're having a girl, we're naming her Evelyn after Grandma. Mom burst into tears. Genuine ones, it seemed. The kind that come from believing you're witnessing something beautiful instead of something weaponized. Dad's face softened for the first time since the confrontation. The grandfather expression settling over his features like a mask he'd been waiting to wear. I wanted my daughter to grow up with the same security Grandma wanted for all of us. Tori's voice broke perfectly, right on cue. But Becca, you're not just taking money, you're taking away my baby's future. Her legacy. Mom reached across the coffee table toward my hand. I didn't take it. Please, Becca, this is your niece, your family. Don't let legal documents destroy what matters most. Aunt Linda leaned forward. Think about what Evelyn would have wanted. A great-granddaughter, carrying on her name. Dad's voice, measured and careful. We're not asking you to give up control. Just share it. Create a structure where Tori can access what she needs for the baby. The trap was elegant, beautiful even. If I said no, heartless aunt denies pregnant sister help. If I said yes, Legal precedent for sharing control equals losing control. If I stayed silent, she doesn't even care about her own niece. I counted to 5. Breathed through my nose. Let the silence extend until it became uncomfortable for them instead of me. Congratulations on your pregnancy, Tori. Truly. Her eyes flickered with something that might have been hope. But a baby doesn't change what you did. $340,000 in theft, forged signatures, vendor fraud. You're not asking me to help your daughter. You're asking me to overlook felonies. Mom's voice, sharp as breaking glass. How dare you call your sister a criminal? I'm calling her actions criminal. Because they are. I turned to Mr. Whitmore. And you know it. The attorney's face had gone the color of old newspaper. You've known about the unauthorized withdrawals since at least 2019. You approved the vendor payments. You countersigned the checks. You're not just her lawyer, Mr. Whitmore. You're her accomplice. I pulled out my phone, opened email, turned the screen to face the room. I have 47 canceled checks, 12 forged signature samples, bank statements from 3 different institutions. And as of this morning, I have a forensic accountant's report linking Mr. Whitmore to $23,000 in referral fees from contractors Tori approved. Derek stood suddenly, chair scraping against hardwood. Tori, is this true? It's not. It's more complicated than, is it true? Silence, the kind that fills lungs and makes breathing difficult. You told me those payments were legitimate. Derek's voice shook. You said the trust allowed for property management fees. You lied to me. Tori collapsed into soapsos, real ones this time, terror instead of performance. I didn't think anyone would check. Grandma never checked. She trusted me. We needed the money, the house, Derek's startup costs, the wedding. My startup costs? Derek backed toward the door. You said that came from your bonuses. I couldn't tell you. I would have told you to stop. Tori, you committed fraud. Mr. Whitmore tried to intervene. Mr. Hartwell, let's not say things we can't take back. Derek turned on him. Did you know my wife was stealing? The attorney's silence answered everything. Thursday morning, 9 a.m. I met Derek at Stumptown Coffee Roasters downtown. He'd chosen the location, public, neutral, too many witnesses for things to get ugly. He looked like he hadn't slept. Patagonia fleece over a t-shirt, jeans, no wedding ring. I noticed the absence immediately. Took it off this morning. He caught my glance. Don't know if I'm putting it back on. He ordered black coffee, didn't touch it, just wrapped both hands around the cup like he needed something to hold. I'm a software engineer. I'm good at patterns, at debugging. I started noticing things 3 months ago. Tori's spending didn't match her paychecks. She said she got bonuses, but her W-2 didn't show them. She said the trust paid management fees, but there were no 1,099s. No documentation. Then I found a folder in her desk. Bank statements for an account I'd never heard of. Cayman Islands. $280,000. I went very still. Offshore accounts? She told me it was an inheritance structure. Tax purposes. I'm not a finance guy. I believed her. He laughed bitterly. I wanted to believe her. Then Sunday happened. Your folder. Your evidence. And I realized my wife isn't who I thought she was. He slid his phone across the table. Voice recorder app open. File dated Monday, September 16th, 11:47 p.m. I recorded our argument Monday night. I know Oregon is two-party consent. I know this can't be used in court. But you need to hear what she said. I pressed play. Derek's voice tight with control. Tori, did you steal from your grandmother's trust? Tori, it wasn't stealing, it was mine. Grandma promised me. Derek, there's no promise in writing. There's just forged signatures. Tori, Becca's lying. She manipulated. Derek, I saw the signature samples, Tori, the forensic analysis. That's your handwriting pretending to be Evelyn's. 8 seconds of silence, breathing. Then, Tori, I didn't have a choice. Mom and Dad were struggling, medical bills from Dad's heart surgery. I was trying to help. Derek, $340,000 for medical bills. Tori, we bought a $90,000 Tesla last year. We spent $45,000 on the Hawaii trip. Where's the money? Tori, I don't know, I spent it on us, on life. Derek, you mean you stole it? Tori crying now. Becca was never going to notice. She doesn't care about the family. She's never here. Derek, so that makes fraud okay. Tori, I'm pregnant, Derek. Doesn't that matter to you? Derek, don't use our daughter to justify this. Tori, I'm not. I'm saying we need that money. For her, for us. Becca has her military pension, her career. What do I have? Derek, A law degree you never used. A husband who worked 70-hour weeks to build a startup you said was ours. And apparently, a talent for fraud. Tori, screaming, "Fuck you! This is why I didn't tell you. You're just like Becca. You think you're better than everyone." Sound of door slamming, recording ended. Derek took the phone back. I don't want my daughter growing up thinking stealing is normal. I don't want her to learn that tears in pregnancy can manipulate people into ignoring crime. But I also don't want her to grow up without a mother, without grandparents, without family. So here's what I'm proposing. He met my eyes directly. I'll testify. I'll provide financial records. I'll cooperate fully with your investigation. In exchange, you don't press criminal charges. You structure something where Tori can't access the trust, but our daughter has a college fund. Something small, $250,000. In a restricted account she can't touch until the baby turns 18. Why are you helping me? I'm not helping you. I'm protecting my daughter from her mother's mistakes. I studied him. Software engineer. Intel salary probably around 160, 180 base. Good benefits. Smart enough to debug his wife's lies. Honest enough to turn on her when he realized the truth. I'll consider it. But Tori has to do 3 things. 1. Full written confession, notarized, admitting to fraud. 2. Public apology. Not to me, to Grandma's memory. 3. Therapy, real therapy, not performance. Derek nodded slowly. I can work with that. And Derek? If she ever tries to access that trust again, criminally or civilly, the deal is void. I'll prosecute. Understand? Understood. Friday, September 20th, Multnomah County Circuit Court, 2 p.m., courtroom 301. Wood paneling, fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly jaundiced, American flag in the corner, state seal above the judge's bench. Judge Marilyn Chen presiding, 55, former estate attorney herself. Reputation for being brilliant and zero tolerance for bullshit. I sat with Mark Stevenson at the plaintiff's table. Tori and Mr. Whitmore, now officially Mr. Patterson, since apparently he'd been lying about his name too, or I'd misremembered or something had shifted, at the defendant's table. Mom and Dad sat in the gallery behind Tori. Derek sat alone in the back row. Court reporter in the corner, fingers poised above the stenotype machine. Patterson stood for his opening argument. Mr. Patterson, Your Honor, my apologies. The stress of recent events had me mixing up details. Judge Chen looked over her reading glasses. Counselor, are you quite ready to proceed? Yes, Your Honor. He cleared his throat. This case is about elder abuse, not physical abuse, the insidious kind, the manipulation of a vulnerable elderly woman by a granddaughter who used her military training in psychological operations to… Mark objected immediately. Counselor is testifying, not arguing. Sustained. Judge Chen's voice carried the weight of someone already tired of this case. Mr. Patterson, stick to facts. The facts are these. Patterson adjusted his approach. In 2016, Evelyn Morrison was 67 years old, recently widowed, grieving. The respondent, Rebecca Morrison, was rarely present, but when she visited, she isolated Mrs. Morrison from family, convinced her that her other granddaughter, who had been faithfully managing properties for years, was stealing. Will show that this trust was executed under undue influence, that Mrs. Morrison lacked capacity to understand its implications, and that the respondent's sudden concern for documentation only emerged after she realized she could seize control of $12.4 million. Tori took the stand at 2:25. Navy maternity dress, minimal makeup, hair pulled back, the picture of vulnerable motherhood under attack. Ms. Hartwell, how would you describe your relationship with your grandmother? Close, very close. I saw her every week, helped her with groceries, doctor's appointments. She trusted me to manage her rental properties starting in 2015. And your sister? Becca visited maybe twice a year. She was always overseas, always busy. Grandma understood. She was proud of Becca's service, but they weren't close. When did you learn about the 2016 trust? Not until Grandma died in 2020. Even then, I didn't know Becca had sole control. I thought we'd share responsibility. That's what family does. What happened when you tried to discuss estate management with your sister? She ignored me for 4 years. Then she showed up at a family meeting with documents and accusations. Called me a thief in front of everyone. Tori's voice broke perfectly. I'm pregnant, I'm trying to build a life for my daughter, and my sister is destroying our family over paperwork. Mark stood for cross-examination at 2:55. Ms. Hartwell, you testified you managed properties starting in 2015. Were you paid for this work? Yes, management fees. How much per year? I'm not sure exactly, maybe 30,000. Mark entered Exhibit A into evidence. This is a summary of payments made to you or entities you control from 2015 to 2019. Total, $340,000. Does that sound like standard property management fees? Tori hesitated. The properties were complex. 18% of total trust value for 3 rental homes and 1 commercial building. There were other expenses. Maintenance, repairs. Mark entered Exhibit B. 12 checks made out to Morrison Holdings 6, a Cayman Islands LLC registered to you. Total, $280,000. Are these management fees or offshore transfers? Patterson jumped up. Objection! Witness isn't on trial here. Judge Chen. Overruled. This goes to credibility. Ms. Hartwell. Did you open an offshore account without disclosing it to the trust? My accountant said it was for tax purposes. Did your grandmother authorize these transfers? Silence. Ms. Hartwell, I'll ask again. Did Evelyn Morrison authorize $280,000 in offshore transfers? She signed the documents. Did she, or did someone sign for her? Tori's face crumbled. Tears streamed. Not performance this time. Terror. I didn't mean to. It wasn't supposed to be this much. It started small, just 1 check, then another, and no one noticed. No one cared. Patterson tried to intervene. Your Honor, my client is clearly distressed. Your client is confessing to fraud. Mark's voice stayed cold, clinical. I took the stand at 3:30. Ms. Morrison, when did you become aware of the 2016 trust? 2018. Grandma showed me documents and asked me to review them. She was concerned about discrepancies in account statements. What did you find? 3 years of suspicious activity, payments to vendors that didn't match work completed, travel reimbursements for property inspections that never occurred, forged signatures on authorization forms. Mark entered Exhibit C through G bank statements, canceled checks, forensic handwriting analysis from 3 separate experts, all reaching the same conclusion. I didn't want to believe my sister was stealing. I spent 6 months verifying before I accepted it. Did you confront her? Number. Grandma told me to wait, to document everything. She had a phrase, truth needs proof, not accusations. What happened when Mrs. Morrison passed away? I waited, reviewed all documents with independent counsel, filed required trust disclosures with the county, managed properties professionally, tenants were never disrupted, maintenance continued, taxes paid on time. Did you try to communicate with your family? They didn't want communication. They wanted compliance. My father sent me transfer documents before we ever had a conversation about Grandma's wishes. Judge Chen leaned forward at 4:10. Ms. Morrison, I've reviewed the 2016 trust. It's unusually thorough. Why do you think your grandmother gave you sole authority instead of shared management? I chose my words carefully, aware that everything I said would become part of the record. She told me once, some people manage money, some people spend it. I need someone who knows the difference. Did she explain why she didn't trust her other granddaughter? She loved Tori, but she'd seen patterns. Small things at first, a loan that wasn't repaid, credit card debt that kept growing. Grandma said, I paused, remembering her exact words. Love and trust aren't the same thing. Judge Chen reviewed documents, typed notes on her laptop, looked up at 4:25. I'm going to issue a preliminary ruling today, with written order to follow. First, the 2016 trust is valid. It was properly executed, witnessed, and recorded. There's no evidence of undue influence. Mrs. Evelyn Morrison was competent, had independent counsel, and made a clear choice. Second, the evidence of financial misconduct is substantial and disturbing. Ms. Hartwell's testimony today amounts to confession of fraud. Third, she looked directly at Patterson. Mr. Patterson, your conduct in this matter is troubling. You knew or should have known about unauthorized withdrawals. Your failure to report them to the trustee may constitute breach of fiduciary duty. I'm referring this matter to the Oregon State Bar. Patterson went pale. The injunction is denied. Ms. Rebecca Morrison retains sole authority over the trust. However, Judge Chen looked at me. Given the family conflict, I'm ordering mediation within 30 days, not to transfer control, but to establish clear boundaries and potentially create limited provisions for the child. Court is adjourned. As Judge Chen stood, Tori collapsed. Not a faint. A theatrical fall, controlled enough that she caught herself on the table edge. I can't do this anymore, she gasped, one hand going to her belly. My baby. The stress, I can't feel her moving. Mom rushed forward. Dad stood frozen. Derek stayed seated. Paramedics were called. Tori lay on the courtroom floor, breathing rapid and shallow, hand pressed to her stomach. In the ambulance bay outside, she looked directly at me. Are you happy now? If I lose this baby, it's on you. Derek stepped between us. Tori, stop, just stop. He turned to the paramedics. Check her out. But I'm her husband. She was moving fine 30 seconds ago. Providence Portland Medical Center. Emergency room, 5:30 p.m. Tests showed baby fine, Tori fine, panic attack, not medical emergency. Doctor's note in her chart. Patient's symptoms consistent with anxiety response to stressful situation. Fetus shows normal heart rate and movement. No cause for concern. Derek confronted Tori in the hospital room while I waited in the hallway. Their voices carried through the door nobody had fully closed. You faked a medical emergency in court, in front of a judge. I didn't fake. Tori, I'm done. I'm filing for separation. You'll have full access to our daughter. But I can't be married to someone who weaponizes pregnancy. The sound that came next might have been crying or might have been something breaking that couldn't be repaired. 6 p.m. I sat in the hospital chapel, non-denominational, quiet, stained glass windows showing abstract patterns instead of religious scenes. First time I'd cried in 4 years. Not for the money, not for the victory, for the family that used to exist before everyone started keeping score. For Sunday dinners when we were kids, for Christmas mornings, for the version of my parents who'd existed before they decided one daughter mattered more than the other. My phone buzzed. Text from Derek. Doctor says baby's fine. Tori's asking for you. I think she's ready to talk. Really talk. I stood outside Tori's hospital room for 3 full minutes. Behind that door was my sister, the one who'd gotten everything handed to her, who'd stolen from our grandmother, who'd just faked a medical crisis in court, but also the sister I'd shared a bedroom with until I was 12, the one who taught me to braid hair when we were 7 and 9, the one who was about to become a mother and had no idea how to do it without stealing or manipulating or breaking things. I knocked twice. Come in. Tori sat propped against pillows, hospital gown loose at the shoulders, hair tangled from lying down. No makeup. The fluorescent lights made her look younger and older simultaneously, like seeing both the sister I'd grown up with and the woman she'd become superimposed on the same face. Derek stood by the window, arms crossed. Witness, not participant. Rain streaked the glass behind him. I-5 traffic humming 6 floors below. The fetal monitor beeped steadily. 68 beats per minute. The baby's heartbeat, strong and consistent. The only honest thing in the room. You came. Derek said you wanted to talk. Silence stretched between us like a bridge neither of us knew how to cross. The monitor beeped. Rain fell. Somewhere down the hall, a nurse's shoes squeaked against linoleum. I'm sorry. The words came out barely audible. I waited. Didn't fill the silence. Didn't make it easier. For which part? My voice stayed level. The theft? The lies? The courtroom theater? She flinched. All of it. I pulled the bedside chair closer. Sat. The vinyl upholstery cracked under my weight. Sound too loud in the careful quiet. It started so small. Tori stared at her hands, fingers twisting together. A check for $8,000 to fix the roof on the Beaverton property. Except the roof didn't need fixing. I needed a down payment on the Lexus. I told myself I'd pay it back. You didn't. No, I didn't. She looked up, eyes raw with something that might have been genuine remorse. And once I did it once, it got easier. $12,000 for property management software that didn't exist. $15,000 for emergency plumbing that never happened. 340 checks later. 340 lies later. Why? The question I'd been carrying for 6 years. You had a good job. Derek made decent money. Why steal? Tori laughed, bitter and broken. Because I was supposed to be the successful one, the one Mom and Dad were proud of. Victoria, the golden child, the one with the business degree from Princeton, the one who married well. But I wasn't successful, I was drowning. Student loans, $120,000. Credit card debt from keeping up appearances, $45,000. The house we couldn't afford because Derek's startup wasn't making money yet, $4,200 a month. And every time I visited Mom and Dad, they'd ask how the portfolio was doing. Like I was some financial genius. Like I had it all figured out. So you stole to maintain the illusion. I stole to survive. She caught herself. No, that's another lie. I stole because I was more terrified of disappointing them than I was of committing fraud. You know what the worst part is? Her voice broke, genuine this time. You were the one they ignored, the one they dismissed. And you turned out exactly like Grandma wanted. Competent, honest, strong. I was the one they praised, and I turned into a fraud. I didn't argue. The truth didn't need my defense. Grandma knew, didn't she? That's why she chose you. She knew you were struggling. She wanted to protect you from yourself. Tori reached for her phone on the bedside table, hands shaking. There's something else. Something I found in Mom's desk last week. She opened a photo, handed me the phone. A letter. Grandma Evelyn's handwriting, precise and controlled even at 77. Dated November 2016. Addressed to Margaret and Robert Morrison. I read slowly, each word landing like a stone dropping into still water. Dear Margaret and Robert, by the time you read this, I'll have transferred fiduciary authority to Rebecca. I know you'll be upset. You'll think I've chosen favorites. I haven't. I've chosen protection. Victoria is drowning in debt and pride. I've seen the statements, the pattern. If I leave her in control, she'll drain everything trying to prove she's worthy. Rebecca doesn't need to prove anything. She already knows her worth. I'm not doing this to punish Victoria. I'm doing it to save her. From debt, from prison, from herself. You raised two daughters to different standards. Victoria to perform. Rebecca to endure. That's why one steals and one protects. I love you both, but I trust Rebecca. Evelyn. I read it twice. My hands shook. Mom's had this for 8 years. Tori nodded. She knew. She knew Grandma chose you. She knew why. And she's been fighting it ever since. Wait. The pieces shifted, rearranging into a pattern I hadn't seen. The family meeting, the pressure campaign, Mom slapping me. Was that? Tori's expression confirmed everything. Mom told me last night. She said Grandma's letter included instructions. Let them push, let them pressure, let them reveal who they are. Only then will Rebecca understand why I chose her. My stomach dropped. Mom was testing me? Not testing, teaching. Tori's voice turned bitter. Teaching me what happens when you take the easy path. Teaching you to never doubt your boundaries. I stood, paced to the window. Rain sheeted down the glass, distorting the city lights into abstract patterns. That's insane. She let me get slapped, let the family turn on me. For a lesson? She slapped you herself, Tori reminded me quietly. She played the villain so you'd see how far we'd all go. Derek finally spoke from his position by the door. I talked to Margaret this morning, she said. Becca needs to know the family will eat her alive if she shows weakness. Better she learns now, with documents to protect her. Then later. I sank back into the chair. This whole thing was theater? The theft was real, Tori said quickly. My fraud was real. Mr. Whitmore's corruption was real. The offshore accounts, all real. But Mom's rage? Derek added. Calculated. She's been protecting you by playing the enemy. The hospital room felt smaller suddenly. Walls pressing in. The monitor beeped. The baby's heartbeat, innocent and steady, unaware of the wreckage surrounding her conception. Saturday morning, I drove to my parents' house. The driveway held fewer cars this visit. Just family. Mom, Aunt Linda, Uncle George, the people who'd been there from the beginning. Mom sat at the head of the table. Different chair pulled from the kitchen. She wore jeans and a sweater, no performance costume. I owe you all the truth. Her voice came out steady, rehearsed. Especially you, Becca. In November 2016, Evelyn called me to her house, showed me the trust documents, told me she was giving Rebecca sole authority. I was furious. Not because of the money, because it felt like she was saying I'd failed as a mother, that I'd raised one daughter wrong. She gave me the letter. Mom pulled out the original, worn from being folded and refolded, told me to read it carefully, to understand. She read parts aloud, voice catching. She said, Margaret, you loved both girls equally, but you praised them differently. Victoria for performing, Rebecca for enduring. Now one performs fraud and one endures loneliness. I argued, said it wasn't fair to put this all on Rebecca. Evelyn said, fair would be letting Victoria steal until she goes to prison. This is mercy. Then she gave me instructions. Mom pulled out a second page. Instructions for Margaret and Robert. 1. Do not tell Rebecca about the letter. 2. When I die, encourage Victoria to ask for control. Let her believe she can have it. 3. When Rebecca refuses, increase pressure. Make it painful. 4. Let the family turn on her. She needs to see what unconditional compliance costs. 5. When she stands firm, and she will, support her publicly. Show Victoria that boundaries are love. 6. If Rebecca ever wavers, show her this letter. Remind her why I chose her. Silence filled the room. You let me believe you hated me. My voice came out flat. For 4 years. Mom's eyes filled. I didn't hate you. I was terrified for you. Evelyn said the only way you trust your own strength was if everyone tested it. That's manipulative. Yes, Mom agreed. It is. Your grandmother was brilliant and ruthless and deeply controlling. Uncle George cleared his throat. I didn't know about any of this. None of us did except Margaret. Aunt Linda's voice carried shame. Because your mother asked us to. She said it was important, that you needed to see how far family would go. I kept thinking about all the times I dismissed you. Mom stirred her coffee. Every award I didn't frame, every achievement I minimized. I don't need you to catalog failures, just don't repeat them. Fair. Tori appeared in the doorway, Derek behind her. I'm the one who stole. Mom didn't make me do that. Grandma didn't. I made those choices. She crossed to where I sat. I don't expect forgiveness, but I am sorry, truly. I don't know if I can forgive you yet. The honesty felt necessary. The money isn't the worst part. It's the assumption that I'd always yield. I turned to Mom. And you. I understand what you were trying to do, but you broke something between us. It's going to take time. Mom nodded, tears falling. I know. Monday, October 7th. Court-ordered mediation downtown. Susan Palmer presiding, 58, retired family court judge. I came with a proposal Mark Stevenson had helped me draft. Structure proposed by Rebecca Morrison, successor trustee. Section 1, Trust Management. Rebecca Morrison retains sole fiduciary authority. Non-negotiable. Independent firm Cascade Wealth Management oversees day-to-day operations. Quarterly reports to all family members. Section 2, Victoria Hartwell. Immediate repayment, $50,000. Repayment plan, $500 monthly. No access to trust principal or management authority, ever. Written confession on record. Section 3, Minor Child Trust. Separate account, $250,000. Restricted until child age 25. Independent trustee. Education and medical emergencies only. Derek co-trustee with veto power. Section 4, Parental Provision. Margaret Morrison can remain in family home. Medical expenses covered if needed. No cash distributions without approval. Section 5, Boundaries. Family gatherings optional. Financial discussions through attorneys only. No public statements. Social media blackout. Violation triggers lawsuit. Tori read it twice. This is more than I deserve. Derek added, I want one more thing. Therapy. For Tori. For us. Paid by the trust. I considered real therapy, not performance. Agreed. Mom spoke quietly. Can we try to rebuild? Not the old family, a new one. With honesty? We can try. I didn't promise more. The mediation ended with signatures. Legal, binding, final. 6 months later, the world looked different. I'd resigned from Naval Intelligence in December. 20-year retirement. Pension secure. February 2025, the nonprofit opened. Small office Northwest Portland. Evelyn's legacy. Financial literacy for women veterans. Brushed steel letters above the door. Inside, 3 desks, conference room, filing cabinets full of resources. We served 217 women in the first month. Opening day, I stood before the first class. 12 women, ages 26 to 63. My grandmother taught me that numbers tell truth when people won't. That documentation protects what words can't. I'm teaching you the same. How to read credit reports. Spot predatory lending. Structure budgets. Build wealth. Recognize when someone's stealing, even if it's family. Especially if it's family. April 15th, baby Evelyn was born. 7 pounds, 3 ounces, dark hair, grandma's nose. Derek texted at 3:47 a.m. She's here, ready to meet her? I bought terrible hospital coffee and drove to Providence at dawn. Tori looked exhausted and radiant. This is Evelyn. The baby wrapped in hospital blanket, pink and white stripes. When Tori placed her in my arms, the weight felt significant. She has Grandma's nose. I noticed. The baby's hand emerged from the blanket. When I touched her palm, she gripped my finger with surprising strength. Not forgiveness yet, but possibility. Every month, first Saturday, Mom and I met for coffee. Pike Place Market, original Starbucks, neutral ground, Maze meeting, window overlooking Elliott Bay, ferries crossing to Bainbridge. How's the center? Growing, 40 women monthly, hired a second counselor. Evelyn would be proud. Pause. I'm proud, Mom added. I should have said that more. You should have, but you're saying it now. Tori completed therapy in August. 12 months, twice weekly. She stopped by the nonprofit one afternoon. First visit. Can I see what you've built? I gave her the tour. 3 rooms now. Computer lab, small library, walls covered with thank you notes. This is incredible, Becca. It's Grandma's legacy, real version. Tori studied photos on the wall. Women of all ages, all branches, all backgrounds. I'm jealous. Not of the money, of this. You turned pain into purpose. You could do the same. I'm trying. She touched a certificate of completion photo. Therapy helped. I'm working part-time. Bookkeeping. Ironic, right? But honest work. She pulled out a folder. I've been working on this. Inside, a proposal. Financial literacy curriculum for new mothers. Budgeting for childcare. Planning education expenses. Avoiding predatory lending. I want to teach this. Not at your nonprofit. That's not appropriate. But somewhere. Community center, online. Help other mothers not make my mistakes. I studied it. Really good work. Will you look it over? Tell me what I'm missing? Yes. She hugged me, quick, uncertain, then left. Progress wasn't linear. Mom called crying because she'd found old photos. I let her cry. Didn't fix it. Just listened. One woman at the nonprofit, former Army medic Jennifer, pulled me aside after class in September. I left my husband last month. He'd been taking money from our joint account for years. Your class taught me how to read statements, how to spot patterns. I documented everything for 6 months. She hugged me fierce and quick. That was the work. One woman at a time, learning she didn't have to accept theft disguised as love. Thanksgiving 2025 arrived with early darkness and bare trees. I'd bought a condo in Pearl District, table that could seat 8. Set for exactly that. Me, Mom, Tori, Derek, baby Evelyn and Carrier, Aunt Linda, Uncle George. Not the whole family, just the people who'd chosen rebuilding. Turkey from local farm. Mashed potatoes, gravy, green beans, rolls, store-bought pumpkin pie because I still couldn't bake. Baby Evelyn, 7 months old, sitting up babbling, grabbed at everything within reach. Before we ate, I stood, wine glass in hand, river visible through windows behind me, bridges lit against dusk. A year ago, we sat in a room with 31 people and nearly destroyed each other. Today, we're 8, trying to rebuild. I won't say everything's fixed. Tori's still repaying what she stole. I still carry anger. Mom and I are still learning trust. But Grandma Evelyn taught me boundaries aren't walls. They're foundations. You can build on them. Here's to foundations. To honesty that hurts but heals. To families that break and choose to rebuild differently. And to little Evelyn, I gestured to the baby, who will grow up knowing that love without respect is just pretty words. Everyone drank. Tori stood. Can I say something? The room went quiet. Becca, you saved me. Not by giving me money, by saying no. For 46 years, people said yes to me. Yes to demands, yes to manipulations, yes to excuses. You were the first person who loved me enough to say no. To let me face consequences. To refuse to enable me. I hated you for it, now I'm grateful. I nodded, throat tight. You're welcome. Baby Evelyn reached for me, babbling. Derek lifted her out, brought her over. She knows her Aunt Becca. I held her, feeling the weight. 7 months old, no concept of trust funds or fraud, just a baby who needed love and boundaries. I promise you, I whispered close enough only she could hear, that you'll grow up knowing your worth isn't conditional, that you can be both loved and held accountable, that silence can be strength, but your voice matters too. Later, after everyone left, I stood on my balcony. River flowing past, bridges connecting shores, traffic in both directions. Phone buzzed, email from Mark Stevenson. Subject, FYI, Whitmore disbarred. Oregon State Bar final ruling. Disbarred for breach of fiduciary duty, fraud enablement. Tori's settlement avoids criminal charges. Justice, slow but sure. Mark. I smiled slightly, closed the email. Inside, the charcoal folder sat on my desk. Fireproof, metal clasp. Hadn't opened it in months, but kept it visible. A reminder. The nonprofit continued growing through winter and into spring. By March 2026, we served over 400 women monthly. The work wasn't dramatic, just steady. One former Navy logistics specialist who spotted embezzlement at her civilian job, one Air Force medic who built her first savings account, one Army sergeant who left an abusive marriage with documents proving financial abuse. Sarah Chen called one evening in late March. "How's civilian life, Morrison?" "Better than expected." "Building something worth building?" "I think so." "Good. Not the money, not vindication, the legacy." Grandma would agree. "I'm proud of you for fighting, for boundaries, for not backing down." "Thank you." "And Becca? You taught a lot of women something important. That quiet ones aren't weak. They're just choosing their battles. And when they fight, they bring receipts." Spring arrived with cherry blossoms, and that particular Northwest clarity before summer haze set in. The city bloomed. The nonprofit expanded. Tori's curriculum for new mothers launched at 3 community centers. Mom's Garden flourished. Derek and Tori cautiously rebuilt. Baby Evelyn took her first wobbly steps and fell laughing into her father's arms. Progress, not perfection. Not the family we'd been, the family we were becoming. The folder stayed on my desk, charcoal gray, fireproof, metal clasp that clicked with authority. I didn't need to open it anymore. The documents inside had done their work, protected what needed protecting, revealed what needed revealing, built foundation where assumptions had been. But I kept it visible. Reminder to myself, to visitors, to the women I taught, that quiet ones aren't weak, that documentation defeats manipulation, that boundaries are love in its most honest form, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is let the truth speak, and then stand there unflinching while it does. The river flowed, bridges connected. The city lived and changed. So did I. Not the invisible daughter anymore. Not the quiet one who always yielded. The woman who brought receipts and taught others to do the same.